passion and relationships. Not just photographs, but photographs in regard to passion and relationships. So get hold on to your hats. So, who here has collected something? Right? It's an interesting human impulse. And so that's one of the things I was really interested in this show is what is that? Now, we don't provide any answers. The collectors who are talking today may offer some gleanings, but we also have a notebook on the resource table over there, and we invited people to talk about what they collect or what they would like to collect.
Yeah.
Here's one. I collect love and smiles. I collect pins and badges. I try to get a pin from every city and country I visit. I collect toys because I like them. I collect fabric to build beautiful quilts,
Good.
etc. So you're welcome to participate in that. And we also have some fun books over on the table about different kinds of collections. So one of the things I tried to do with this show is, the main intention is to celebrate donations from 4 different groups of people. That's a little bit unusual. We don't tend to take large groups of material in. We have to be very careful about what we accession, because once it's here forever. We agreed to take care of it forever. And that's can be a big commitment. So, in terms of somebody knocking on the front door and saying, I'd like to give you my whole collection, it doesn't happen very often. Tempting, but lots of other considerations go into that. It's a very deliberative process. So we can talk more about that later if you want to, but mainly what I wanted to let you know is that these are relationships that we've developed with the collectors. We have relationships with the pictures have relationships with other pictures in the collection. So there's a lot going on, and that's part of what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the first photograph I ever collected was by Ruth Thorne Thompson. And our work is included right over there on the top. It's a little picture by Ruth. And I got to meet her and be friends with her later in my life. So I've got a lot of interconnections with these pictures too. So there are lots of stories. So we'll get started telling you about them. The work you see around me here is by David Michael Kennedy. And these were given by a man called Don Moritz. Don lived outside Chicago and had a rich professional career, but was a passionate amateur photographer. And he also started collecting. Now, he came to Santa Fe to take a workshop with David Michael Kennedy at the Santa Fe Workshops. Some of you may know about that place, a wonderful place a few miles from here, where you can do some intensive learning. And so he took a class with David, and he just loved his work. He was hooked. And he became one of David's most, what's the word I'm going to use here? Primary. He became one of his primary collectors, even though they were in different places and they didn't see each other very often. So there's a connection across the miles, a spark that happened. And so Don was in his 90s when he contacted us. I didn't know him, but he contacted us because he was disassembling his very large collection. And I don't want to say he was obsessed, but there were a lot of pictures. So we were interested in what might work here. And we just didn't happen to have anything by David in the collection. They just hadn't happened. So hey, welcome everybody. So that was something we focused in on, and I worked with Don to select a group from that larger group, even of course by David. So we're really thrilled to have these. And David lives up in El Rito. Some of you may have met him. He was a rock and roll photographer in New York, had a big career, and came up to New Mexico and started working more into landscape, was really engaged with the native cultures in the West. And so the work we selected reflects that. His work was really important to me when I first started coming to New Mexico, because of the view that it showed of this place in his really, really beautiful platinum prints, or platinum palladium prints, which you can learn more about if you want to read the labels. So Don lived far away, so he's not with us, but he also was in his 90s, and he kept asking me to try to hurry up the process a bit because he was not expecting to remain on this mortal coil much longer. And indeed, we did find out that he died last year. So we want to honor him and remember him and thank him so much and just acknowledge his passion for a really terrific New Mexico photographer. So thank you, Don, and thank you, David, both very much. So let's move to the left, and we'll hear from our first collector. Alcove that gives one piece from each collection and talks about the theme of the show. And as I said, we are really wanted to honor the photographer, the collectors, well, it's the photographers, but also to, my take on the show was to also look at how each person collected and how collecting can be done differently. So we saw next to work, the work of Don Moritz was monographic, so one person, single artist, although he did collect more broadly than that, but I'm kind of representing him as the person who collects in depth, to quite one artist. So now I'd like to introduce you to Jamie Brunson. And Jamie, when she lived in the Bay Area with her husband at the time, Dr. Mark Levy, they both got really interested in photography at a time when the gallery scene and the photo scene were really bursting. It was a really exciting time. I happened to have been there at the same time, but we didn't know one another. And Jamie's an artist, he's a painter, and Mark, as well as an art critic. And Mark was an art historian, a teacher, and what else did I see? Yeah, really, man, very interesting interests. The other one about easy interests, so I send mine. Jamie will tell you more. But anyway, they started this collection together. I think it was really stimulated by them going to galleries and what they saw there. And so one thing you notice when going from that gallery to this is there's color and they're bigger. So that's part of what was happening at the time. And so this selection I kind of characterize as, what's a bit of characterizing? Well, I'll turn these over to Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you all so much for being here on this quite blessed day. I'm sure the drive-in was that much fun. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right. Great. And also I want to thank the museum so much for accepting this donation for, because it really mattered to me that after Mark passed, the work went to an institution. We talked about it when we were here in our lifetime, that when both of us were gone, eventually everything that we collected would go to institutions. So, as Kate said, Mark and I were both art critics. We met when we were working as art critics. I was teaching part-time community everywhere in the Bay Area. He had a tenured position as a doctor of art history at Cal State East Bay. And because we were writing regularly for regional and local publications, we would go on the weekends to galleries and just look around, look for shows to write about, and also look for things that matched our tastes. We didn't only collect photographs, we also collected medieval illuminations, pre-Columbian objects, Gandhar and Indus objects that show the hybrid influence of Eastern art and Greco-Roman style, and so forth. So there's still a lot of objects, and as I get older, now that Mark's on, I'm trying to figure out where all these things belong, which collections they belong to. But having moved here after Mark passed, and really because of Kate, I wanted these spaces to go to this museum. So Mark and I would go to the galleries, we would look around, we would find shows that we wanted to write about. Sometimes we wrote collaboratively, sometimes we wrote individually. Because I was trained as a painter, and because I taught a lot of methods and materials and process-based classes, there was a lot of mystery for me in painting, but photography seemed like magic because it involved a very specific use of light and a particular way of framing and composing. So we decided to collect photographs because they were a little more affordable and because they could pretty much trade with any friends that I wanted to acquire paintings through. So for about a 10, 12, 15-year period, Kate was right, that was really when color photography was blossoming in the Bay Area and elsewhere, I'm sure. We were collecting contemporary work for the large part. The one novel is at Claxon over there. You'll see it. It's the second line strutters, dancers responding to parade music and a New Orleans funeral. The reason for that one, we didn't really collect that much figurative work, but the reason for that one was that it was the embodiment of pure joy. And we went to the gallery. I saw Mark looking at that. I saw what it did to him. And then, as with all the other photographs, I would go back later, sneak back with my checkbook and put a deposit down and get the photographs. So a lot of these photographs were acquired around the time of Christmas or Mark's birthday or our anniversaries, as were all the other objects. Talking about the idea of collecting, if there was a subtext or a theme to our collection, I would say that it was strongly tied to two things, meditation practice and the art historical idea of the sublime that arises out of the Romantic movement in visual arts literature. Mark wrote several books. One was called Technicians of Ecstasy, The Modern Artist Shaman. The other one is called The Void in Art, which he jokingly called 300 pages about nothing. And so he was intensely interested in metaphysics, even though trained as an art historian. He was always looking for the metaphysical, and that was something that interested me too. Mark ran a meditation ashram. He had studied with a Kundalini teacher who was one of the first people on the East Coast to bring meditation practice back to America. And Mark became a lineage holder and a teacher for that lineage. So he introduced me to the meditation process, and I'm happy to say that at least one person from the ashram who still meditates is here today. So that process, that meditation process, was a big part of the kind of visual work that interested us that we were interested in Buddhist objects. Mark had an enormous selection of kampas and Buddhist objects that have drawn to the University of California, Berkeley Art Museum. If you're ever out in Berkeley, you'll probably see those objects there. But how that manifested the idea of romanticism and the sublime and the void.
Yes, how did that manifest?
Yeah. Well, in space, not every picture, of course, is about that, but I mean, this one, the Tom Burrell, definitely shows the idea of the sublime. I mean, if you look up romanticism or the sublime on Wikipedia, what you're going to see is a Caspar David Friedrich picture, either monk on the shore or else the wanderer on the coast or in the Balkan, it's called. And so that kind of atmospheric quality seemed to best capture the sublime, and I think it's really present in this picture. And there's also the idea of the dark or tenebrous sublime, a little bit sinister, but still sublime in the sense of evoking awe, as well as that enormous sense of space or scale, which is sort of overwhelming to human senses. This also, same thing, horizon line, gray space. There's another Mizrach series where he lived at the top of a big hill in the Bay Area and could look down and see the Golden Gate Bridge and fog coming in. At the time those pictures came out, I thought they were really producing a large edition and we couldn't afford them. And then later on they found out there were small versions of it. And to this day, I'm kicking myself for not having found one of those because they were also very sublime. If you can imagine a rock realized as a photograph, they were like that. This one in particular, Bertensi, I followed Bertensi myself for a long time. And Mark and I traveled extensively in Asia, to Nepal, to Tibet, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia. So when we saw this picture from Bertensi's shipwrecking series, there was something about it that evoked the Raj era. And this enormous ship, which is basically the series is about day laborers breaking up these enormous single-hulled ships that were outlawed after the Islamic Valdez crash. And these guys go out with no safety protection, barefoot, with hand tools and torches, and they would take these giant ships apart. Really, if you're really interested in pursuing this, I urge you to look at the Bertensi website, because there's so much information here about this series, about all his work. The important thing about Bertensi is that he really focused on the influence that Cubans had had on the physical environment. And his work is sublime. This one less so than many of the others that show vast landscapes that have been altered by industry and mining and so forth. The thing that I like about this picture is that because this day laborer is wearing a sort of ornamental looking garment, and he basically has a do-rag on his head that looks like a turban. You know, he's just got something to keep to collect the sweat while he's working. He ends up looking kind of regal, and I think on some level what Bertensi was doing very subtly was critiquing the concept of colonialism, basically drawing a parallel between exploitation of labor as a different form of colonization and exploitation of the environment as a different form of colonization. I'm very fond of that picture. This one, yeah, so part of the impulse of writing criticism is that you're seeking to interpret. You want to advocate for the artist who made the work, but you also want to maybe add your own level of interpretation to the work. And this one, there's something about this mythical figure about to take off into the sky that's juxtaposed with this incapacitated jeep and trailer in the edge of the light. It suggests a kind of narrative. And the light in this picture is very strange. What I understand, I believe I was told, is that the artist was purposely using a kind of film that would be sensitive to artificial light in that dark environment with the commercial light in the gas station. It gives this sort of blasted out, ethereal feeling like a place of departure. So I think there's something in collecting about knowing a little bit about everything, a little bit of religion, a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of the history of civilization, a little bit about ecology, a little bit about religion, and so on and so forth, that causes you to bring a richer figurative experience to the consumption of art, basically. And that was the approach that we took in collecting work. This one, the monasteries at Drepung, we did not look at that specific monastery, but we did travel into that, and I think that was just it was another one of those joyful pictures, reminded us of the monks that we had seen in the Asian countries that we visited, and Tibet in particular, especially the young monk who surreptitiously tripped up to us and said, "Found a long picture." And I think that's all I have to say.
Wonderful, thank you. I especially love your story about seeing the spark that you saw a spark in Mark when you looked at one pictures, and that was your impetus for bringing it home.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really lovely. And that's the passion I was talking about. And you know, the times when I've brought things home, it hasn't really been optional. There's a feeling that seasons one. That, you know, yeah. So questions from anyone, for JD or about what we've seen so far? I was wondering about what it was like to live with some of these pictures that are a little bit dark. I mean, you talked about the idea of the sublime, so it's much broader than air pollution, perhaps, referring to the John Paul picture. But any thoughts on that?
Well, for this one in particular, there's a companion piece that is much brighter and more saturated in color. They're flanking the bedroom, the master bedroom. There is this concept called rude porn. Have you guys heard of this? And it's a little bit dark, but I think it is connected to the slime, you know, to the awesomeness of something that is outside your power. And I think that has something to do with that quality of darkness.
Well, that kind of connects with your interest in meditation too.
Well, this is
Things that are outside of our
exactly.
control.
Exactly. I mean, you can't, as everybody knows, you can't have the light without the dark, and it ends up making a complete picture of reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, please. I'm curious. How did you arrive at the decision to donate some of your collection here to New Mexico Museum of Art, and also one other institution you donating your collection? How did you arrive at that?
So the question was, how did I arrive at the decision to donate to these lands to this institution, and how am I thinking about the other pieces I'm going to donate later? Again, Kay talked about the idea of collections creating relationships. I met Kay here when we were visiting, thinking about moving here. Met Kay through a couple of fabulous photographers who are here in the room today, Joe Ray and Greg McGregor, who both have work in the collection here and in the History Museum. Greg shared an office with Mark at Cal State East Bay. So through all these personal connections, I came to Kate, and I just thought, Kate writes so beautifully, does amazing research about photography, and I had seen several shows that she had curated, and I just admired her sensibility, and because she was at the helm of the program here, I really wanted the work to go here. And Mark only died, it'll be 3 years in May, and immediately when he died, you know, his Asian collection went to Berkeley, but I really wanted an institution to have the work, because I thought, I live in a house in Lady with nothing but windows, and I thought, well, where could be safer here too, but also, you know, under Kate's watchful eye. And the other things, I'm trying to pick institutions that are most appropriate. I'm thinking some, probably LA County for the pre-Columbian stuff, the Bondaren stuff. I need to do more research. You know, we all get to a certain age and we start writing our wills, and it's really good to think about it. I mean, Mark was only 73 when he passed, and you don't expect someone to go at 73. So I'm thinking about institutions in New Mexico where appropriate, and North here, possibly UNM, because they collect photographs as well. And NMSU, a friend of mine who was the curator, chief curator there, and raised the money for the new museum, is another possible recipient of some prints and Barnes and paper because it will matter as a teaching tool at an institution. So that tends to be how I think of it.
Thank you.
Are you still collecting? And if so, where has your eye taken?
Well,
Look at the
okay, am I still collecting and where has that taken me? I like so many things because I'm so interested in so many cultures. I will say my new husband, who's not here today, gave me a Harlan and Graiano pot that I have been admiring. I'd seen it at Rainbow Man and I've been admiring it since we moved here. And I think that style of pottery, it's really just amazing, especially a younger generation of potters reinterpreting Pueblo styles. So that's one of the things. I'm actually in the state of de-accessioning because, you know, when time is short, the house is small, and it's more like collecting experiences now. Does that make sense?
Sit down and see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, last question in the back.
Are you still painting? Because your paintings remind me like Rafiki was very same feeling. And was Agnes Martin a big
Yeah.
influence to you in your work?
Very good, very good. Thank you. Thank you for looking at my work. So the question was, am I still painting? Our guest sees a connection between some of the sublime images and compositions of this work and my work. And was Agnes Martin an influence? And definitely Agnes Martin was an influence. Yes, I'm still painting more perhaps now that we've finished remodeling the kitchen. Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Keep that.
All right, thanks, Jamie. And the work that you'll see is a selection from her promised gift, which will come to us eventually. But we have enjoyed borrowing things in various exhibitions. We had a piece in the Ansel Adams show recently, and in the Manuel Correa show this year. So, but this is a chance to see a little bit broader selection, although a skewed selection. And I kind of followed in her footsteps a bit because she also lives with her collection, and she had a lot of time and thought into how to arrange those in the house, how they felt to her, and how they made a home for her. So in some cases, I emulated her sequences to kind of, again, share her sensibility. And she and Bill were a bit more Pacific in their collecting. A lot of it leans heavily toward the earlier part of the 20th century, some really classic photographers who we'll see in a minute, but also some contemporary work, and really collecting from the heart, I would say. So Caroline, tell us a little bit about your curious collector.
You said a lot. First of all, I need to acknowledge and thank Kate for her conceptualization of this exhibition. She and I started talking about ways of seeing back in January of 23. And when she said the words ways of seeing, that almost has been the lens that I looked at and looked through ever since. And it comes to me when I go hiking, I'm just not going from point to point. I'm really trying to, what am I seeing? And so Kate mentioned about being in my home with some of the photographs. It has given me a new way of seeing my work with Kate. So to Kate, thank you for giving it to me. I also want to thank a lot of other people that have helped me on the journey and helped me sort of broaden how I view photography, what I might look for in a piece. And so all the pieces here today are ones that actually Kate by walking through my house and her way of seeing selected for this exhibition. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to say this morning, I wanted to make sure that those pieces that I highlighted are ones that Bill and I brought together. As Kate indicated, Bill's not been with us for quite a number of years, but our journey began in the beginning of the 90s when we first started coming to Santa Fe. And I think Bill was here first, and he started looking around Santa Fe under a couple of the galleries. And as Kate mentioned, we climbed the Pedernal. It was like Everest for me, you know. And so he then bought the first photograph that we ever got was Arnold Newman's George O'Keeffe sitting in a chair sideways with the Pedernal behind it. And that was a piece I had at home in Virginia for years before we actually moved here to Santa Fe. And I was looking, I think it was Anya Russick that asked me, what was the piece that I bought him? And I had to go back and look and so on. And I think it was a piece, it was a landscape in Wyoming. And Bill was very engaged in Knowles National Outdoor Leadership School. So it seemed very appropriate to have a landscape picture that I would give to him. So that started us on this journey. And then we began, every time we came here, before we actually moved, we would go to the galleries. We met Janet and Dave at Steinbach and Russell. Yeah, you can't have to do this. I only school education. So anyhow, we started pictures, as Kate said, accumulating pictures that were ones of, more landscape, more pictures of places that we may have been, maybe have not been, but that really spoke to us because of the landscape here in New Mexico. And I think that we were really taken by that, which is why we moved here to South One. This is where we wanted to be. So a lot of the first pieces that we had were that kind of genre. As we started to get to know photography more, we didn't have this background in art as we heard from Jamie. We started thinking that, well, what else is it that we want? So I want to talk for a minute about this particular picture here by Sebastian Soldati. I can remember sitting at Janet and David's gallery in Brazil with books, all of Soldato's work, going through them. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the work of Soldato, but it is poignant, it is powerful, it is also gut-wrenching in many ways because of what he captured of humanity. And Bill and I were like, do you think there's this piece here that we would want? Because some of it was really very hard. And in fact, in one of the books I was looking at, Soldato, he talked about the impact that his work had on him and how it made him question things about humanity and where he would go after some of his work. Because he did work worldwide. We saw this particular picture of these migrants. And it's thoughtful. And one of the things that has been said, and I think David Corey said the other day, was we are given permission, if you would, to take a picture in this person's life. And I think that's part of what Soldado captured here. He had a relationship with these individuals who were, who knows what they had suffered, what they had seen. We don't know. But what I want from everyone here is that when you see a photo, you go and you ask those questions. You say, what could be going on in the lives of these individuals, or in the landscape that happens. Right now I'm focusing on portraiture. And here I assume is a mother looking in every direction. Is it because she's looking at what she's leaving, saying goodbye to something? Is she questioning whether she wants to go on a journey with her family? We don't know. I don't know that we need to know. But the power to me of the little boy, probably just so tired, holding his hand. I can't tell you how much Bill and I just spent time with this piece and finally knew that of the pieces of Soldado that we had seen, and actually I went back to 2 of the books of Soldado that I had at home, and I found some others that I was thinking about it, I would like to have. Because they speak to me in a different way because I'm in a different place now. And this to me is, yes, it can be depressing, it can be heart-wrenching, but I also think it talks about the humanity of individuals, their struggle, and the way in which they survive. And I think these people are surviving. And so that was what we thought, we decided, is that it speaks about humanity. It speaks about, I would imagine this room had those kind of struggles. But this does speak when we are faced with some big challenge, if you will. If you think about what's within us, what you would bring to the situation, I think of people like Lucy here from Ethiopia. And so this is the piece that Bill and I brought together that I wanted to share with you because it had such power and meaning. And it was important for me to, it's another piece that I was so happy that Kate decided to choose this piece. And it has a space by itself, but it says so much.
Do you want to talk just quickly about some of the other pieces?
Well, I wanted to just talk about Tony O'Brien's piece.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether we want to move.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry, but this is the way it was laid out, and would you bear with me and move into the alcove and photograph?
It was on the website when we first advertised Ways of Seeing. It's by local photojournalist Tony O'Brien. It's a picture of a young girl in Afghanistan. Again, to get that kind of intimacy with a photograph, Tony spent time with this woman. She felt comfortable with him to allow him to take this photograph. And as a result, it's been given to us. When I saw this photo in what was then Verve Gallery, it was an exhibition of Tony's, it just brought me to tears. I just could not believe the power in her eyes, her face, and to me as a young woman, you know, she's seen more than all of us in this room have seen, I believe. And I was just drawn to it and felt that this was a piece that I really wanted to have in my home because of the power of, again, of humanity. It's linked in many ways to the Soldado. And to me, it is incredibly powerful. Kate told me to make these short, so I will bring one other piece. This piece I bought after Bill's death. But this is another piece that he and I brought together by Manuel Alvarez Bravo. And it's titled El Ensueño, The Daydream. And it's dark, you probably can't see it really closely here, but here's a young girl on a railing, on a balcony. And again, it's what I invite all of you to do. What is she thinking? Has she just had some experience that is, excuse me, and she just had some experience with something not so wonderful, and she's ruminating about it. Or I would like to think she's sitting there, hand holding her chin. I'm a young woman. Where am I going? I'm on the balcony, and I'm looking out. The world is open to me. To me, that's what photography does, or allows me. I can look at a piece, you can look at a piece, and we come away with some different things, maybe some similar things. But this, again, was another powerful piece as Bill and I started the journey. And the other pieces that you will see here are pieces that I have collected since Bill's death. And in my work with Kate in preparation for this exhibition, I realized that these pieces, not Tony's piece, but all these other pieces were in my office. I was surrounded by women. And it was like, how did that happen? You know, it was part of the journey, you know, for me. And part of it is, I love what it says about where we might go, who we might go with, mother and daughter, mother sending daughter off to where? School, who knows, it doesn't matter, but out into the world. The peacefulness of Eleanor, Andy Callahan's photo. There's just so much that I encourage you to take the time to walk through the gallery, and other art also. But at the Centennial, I had 3 pieces up at the gallery upstairs, and I sat in one of the chairs one day. And you know how you are in a museum. You just kind of walk, oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice, you know. And how often we don't take the time to really let something come into our hearts. I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
I'm a teacher from New York. And I don't know if any of you remember that television ad with Dos Equis here about the most interesting man in the world. Anybody remember that? Yeah, for me that's Bill. Yeah, he wrestles crocodiles, and then he gives gallery talk, and then, you know, he sings a song, and he's just a really fascinating person, and I had the pleasure to know him when I was on the East Coast, and I just thought, and I felt the way I feel about photographs when I have to bring them home, and it's like, I want that. That's the stuff. So it's really special to have had this opportunity to bring a selection from his very large collection, one of his collections. I'm going to show you this book. So this encompasses this encompasses essentially the full version of the Unseen Eye collection, also known as Fancy Fair collection. And so, as Bill mentioned, around many of the collectors have mentioned, it's time to pass along some of the photographs and perhaps get new ones. So Bill has some other active collections that he's working on. But this one was really close to my heart because he and I were attracted to some of the same photographic work. And so it's really a thrill. And we're glad to have some of these pieces here. They have various connections with New Mexico and the photo history that make them appropriate for the collection here. And so I will let him talk about his life in collecting.
You're the best. I'm a big fan of this tapeware. I'm W.M. Hunt, Bill Hunt. I'm glad to be here. I'm really glad to be here. I'm very happy about this gift. This is a good home for it. Collecting is like walking around in a thunderstorm, praying you will be hit by lightning. Anyway, I've been a collector for a long time, and I know lots about it. Anyway, these pictures, this museum got a really good gift in all objectivity. And this is, I don't know how many pictures I gave, but this is a really lovely selection. And one of the things that struck me when I was looking at them was that they're funny. The pictures are never funny, and these are actually kind of funny. I've talked about collecting very often. One of the things that never comes up in conversations about collecting is getting rid of them. They always talk about how do you get them? And nobody ever talks about, oh my God, you're 100 years old. You gotta get rid of these damn things. My partner always says, what am I supposed to do with these? So actually the 2 guys are coming with a truck. We can just say all and figure it out. But I've spent a lot of time lately trying to deaccession works, either by gifting them, selling them, giving them to friends. You should come over when I'm in a giving mood as well. Hey, it's great. So what do we got? So it's a collection called Collection Dancing Bear. They are all images of people. They are magical, heart-stopping images of people in which you do not see their eyes. Why is that? I don't know. The voices called me. Go collect pictures of people without eyes. Okay. Go collect hundreds of them. And this picture, I'm so glad to see this picture. This is a picture by Adam Foose. And I know that Kate loves it too because she put it in the middle, she put it on the axis of the whole exhibition. This is, the technique here is this picture is full of life. The yellow just explodes. This picture is so unlikely. The baby's put in a Tupperware bin with water, and there's a piece of photographic paper, no camera, and he hits a strobe. And so there are all these babies who will always be a little honored on Tupperware because they were terrified when they were children. This piece has all the pictures I collect are pictures of me. I didn't know that when I started. One night I was stoned, sitting in the apartment. I did an analysis for a few years. And I went, oh my God, these are all pictures of me. And they are. So you look at a picture like the Arthur Trust picture over here, and that's a picture of me striving, yearning, wanting recognition, wanting to find things. I actually don't know how Inga Morad is a picture of me. It's a kind of sly person, smart, intelligent. The wicked. Anyway, this is me as a baby, entering life. There is something in it that's great detail, which is where the light is, where all the light has come together, and it's dark. Then it looks like a great big penis. And I think, well, that's good, I like that. That's a little surprise. How are these other pictures like me? The Ruth Thorne Thompson that Kate pointed out in the other room is a really existential version of anyone. Literally trying to connect the dots in their life. The minor light here is a simply iconic picture that has a riddle in it. I think great photographs have two things. They have balance and they have secrets. And that piece has secrets which are almost impossible to figure out. With the Debbie from the Catholic, there's a connection with Santa Fe. Debbie has lived here over the years off and on, and I'm a big fan of Debbie's work. She's younger than I am, but she's been doing it a long time. She's really a master. She's a wonderful printer. She loves the dark, and that seems to be a picture of her and me trying to find, to be realized in life. The Gerald Slover picture here. Gerald is on the east, and he's very iconoclastic, which is a euphemism for mad. And the three faces in that image, maybe one of the three faces. And somehow that just describes the life condition of trying to come into focus, of trying to find yourself, go forward. Joel, Peter Whitkin, is really a master photographer. And as Joel's pictures go, this is pretty benign because he can really push your buttons. Joel, like Debbie, is a great printer. And again, this has a great secret. What's the baby up to? Well, what do the various strange signs indicate? And I love that the pictures, the really good pictures, beckon you forward, that you actually physically find yourself drawn into them. Every so often there are a couple of pictures do another joke, delightfully called Man Without Head, which is what it is. And that's a picture that pushes you away. But really, most pictures that are great, come on over here, come on over here. Overwhelmingly, the world of photography today is filled with really good photographs, none of which interest me. I like the great ones. I like those, just the smallest percentage. And when I see one, I just jump out of my skin. It's the most exciting, the most exhilarating experience. Photography has done so much for me in my life in terms of activating me and making me challenge me. There was an experience I want to report on. It actually came up, all the references to the Sublime. So there's this collection, and then there's another collection of American groups of people by American photographers before 1965. And during COVID, there was a picture that I bought. Usually these are by photographers who we don't know who they are. They're anonymous or unattributed, whatever. And I like rescuing the three-legged dogs of photography. The picture shows up, and the mount is very bad shape. But I got it mounted and into a lovely frame, and it's a picture of a group of engineers, and it's 18-something, and it's really good. And one of the things that's good about it is that there's something going wrong in the upper right-hand corner of the piece, so that the emulsion or whatever got distorted. And I describe that moment as all these guys are being subsumed into the rapture. Yeah, that's a good photo, if you can do that. During COVID, I found that I would go to my studio, and then I would pick this up, and I realized that I would just dance with the photograph. And I'd stand there for 5 minutes having this wonderful, wonderful personal, intense experience. Photography really did change my life. It gave me one. My friends are all photographers and dealers and writers, and if you really want to have a good time, just wait 1 second. Curators. Yeah, curators. Go on my website, which is wmhunt.com, /some really good ones. Did a lot of writing in a series called Great Photographs, ... or at least some really good ones. And usually I talk about an individual photographer or artist. If you get into it, go all the way down to the bottom, and there's a photograph of a little boy with a telescope. Start there. And it's about innocence, it's about a lot of things. And I really am consumed with photography and really happy to share this with you all. You're the lucky ones today. And I'm lucky because I get to show you.
Thank you. Yes, thanks so much, Bill. We're right at 12 o'clock, so those of you who need to go, I'm going to give you the freedom to do that. But for those who can stay, I'd love to invite your questions for Caroline and Bill both. And yeah, sorry to interrupt you, I just had to add curators to your list.
Thank you.
Okay. Thoughts about the interesting journey of collecting and how personal it can be? Or other questions about the artists and the pictures? One of the things that really struck me when you were talking is photography is less and less printed these days. So the photographic print, this is what museums do. We want the photographic print, and we see that as the final expression of many works, but people are conceiving these differently these days. So. All right, what's on your minds?
What are you writing down?
Your feelings about the photographs.
You're writing those down?
He's writing down his feelings about the photographs. How does that resonate with you?
Huh?
does that resonate with you?
How does it?
Okay.
So,
Yes. Question Brown.
what are you collecting now?
What are you collecting now?
Vouchers.
Well, part of what happened with this exploration with Kate is I realized of all the photographs in my office of women, only one was photographed by a woman. The rest of them is over here, Marie Rapp, is Stieglitz, and many of the others are by other male photographers. So I don't know if that's going to change the direction of my collection, but I pay attention to whether, and actually there's an article about women photographers taking photographs of women. And the most recent acquisition I got at APAD last year was of Dorothea Lange, and taken by Imogen Cunningham. And it was just an amazing, amazing photograph. And so that's the one that was of a woman by a woman. So I think that's part of the journey. As I mentioned, I've also done stuff, and I've just seen a couple more Saldados that are of interest to me. And I just bought an Ache from Janet and David the other day, what do you call them, music grinder and a little girl, and she's just joyful. So I think I'm looking for joy.
Great, we need more of that in the world. Bill, you were talking about the gay section being one of the exceptions, but any comments on what you're collecting these days?
No. It is still that, I still do buy photographs. It is that explosion in my heart where I can't go any further until it's mine. It's just, that was, tell the joke. Why, the person who asked me why did that?
Yes. One of my favorite quotations from Bill was, in a situation like this, someone asked him, well, why do you buy them? Why do you have to own them? Right? So you can have that burst of excitement, that thrill, and then just walk away and have lunch, right? Why do you have to take them home? And his answer was, because then they're mine.
But part of the deception thing is that I'm done with it. That the collection actually had a very, very strong psychological healing impact on me. There was this, so I could collect all pictures we were cancer their eyes. And I was in the Met one day, and there was this image by Bill Grant in this kind of throwaway, stupid show. And hot August day, and I see this photograph. Oh my God. And it was all by myself. And I just wanted someone to be there and go, hey, are you looking at this photograph? I think it was higher than that. Are you looking at this photograph? Look at this photograph. It's great. And it's Duvernay's eye, wide open. And I walked home, and I went, look, you can't buy that picture because that eye is wide open. And I realized maybe I was done with that collection. Mental health was mine.
I was thinking, you can't buy that photograph because it's in a museum, but, you know. Well, one of the things that I'm so interested in, and both of you talked about, is how personal it can be, this relationship with pictures. And I think certainly some people collect for investment for lots of different reasons and motivations that are all fine, but this kind of, the sense of discovering oneself in the picture or with working with a partner, I mean, what a fascinating way to find out about yourself or another person is through a work of art. And we often think that the work of art has a meaning, and often there is an intention by the artist. But once it's out in the world, it's subject to all of our musings, and those change over time, right? Yes, question.
So do you develop relationships with the artists that whose work you collect, or is it more important to you just that somatic experience of you having a conversation with the work of art itself?
Right, so she's asking if we have gotten to know the artist and developed relationships with the artist, or if it's really about that moment along the front?
Well, for me, it's a lot of the art that I have are with photographers who are all over this. Some of the more early 20th century. But the picture of there, Tony O'Brien's girl from Afghanistan, I do have a relationship with him. And part of what I caused, some of you may have noticed or something, I saw him in the audience. And seeing him here, almost brought me to tears once again after seeing his photograph and buying it. So there is that kind of relationship. So maybe it's
Yeah, that's another one of the relationships.
For me, it's the picture. I was thinking about another weekend. When I turned 50, I was at a show, and it was Joel, and he had this picture of the man without a hat. And I looked at him, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. You cannot make this picture. This violates every social contract ever. You can't do this. No, no. If I owned this picture, I would be the most powerful person in the world. So,
But did you live with it?
no.
So that's kind of what we're talking about with Jamie, is what it's like to have that in your house. And I think about that.
But I know where it is.
That's right, you published it.
No. I mean, there's this funny thing that happens with collectors that I know who have big collections. They don't have to have them out all the time. They just have to know that they have them. It's completely a fetish thing. I do think that collecting is based on a need for orders. That it's a way of shaping things. It structures you. This is me. I live in this. And that's what a collector is.
Yeah, one of the times we were talking about finding yourself in the photographs, I went home and saw what was on my walls, and I just thought, oh, okay. I didn't know that about myself. It'd be really interesting. Yeah, other comments to that? Okay. One more question before we go? Another thought or observation? Yes.
Observation.
Yes.
This technology particularly nourishing.
Let's see if we would observe. I'll give you the mic.
Thank you. I found it particularly nourishing to listen to the inner dialogue of the presenters and their relationship to the photographs and that dynamic that established itself when they were looking at the photograph and the story that developed from that. That was very beautiful. It was a gift. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's really lovely. And I had wanted to say too that I think people often think, oh, we collect these photographs and we put them in boxes and they're in storage. To us, they're not static. They are connected with all of these stories, and the artists and the collectors and the donors and all the people connected with them are very much part of this living, breathing entity for us. So it is, we think of it as a living collection. It's always being reinterpreted. It's being shown in different contexts. So it's a pretty exciting life. So it's been wonderful to share with you some glimpses of that for some of our donors today. So we'll give them a round of applause.